Great. Good evening. We are back for our final rendition and recording of Bible storying for orality and oral cultures for the spring. And in doing so, I wish there were more times to story through this progression, but we are ending this session on a high note and just something that I believe should be shared more often with people. And if we couldn't see before, my Bible is here and in front of me. And last week we got to discuss more in Mark 5 of the not only the bleeding woman that came up a little bit, but more specifically in Jesus healing Jairus' daughter and bringing her back to life and doing that in such a beautiful way. And so we are now looking just a couple chapters later. And at this point, Jesus is still in Jerusalem, but for this story specifically, we find him on a mountain. And on this mountain that is now known as Mount Tabor. And we see that Jesus has been living with his disciples, telling him so many things to come. And then after some days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up to the top of the high mountain. And it was just them. And he was transfigured before him, which is a wild word to use. But thankfully they continue by saying he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared with him Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." And for he did not know what to say. That was his response. He had no idea what to say by the presence of Jesus in this state of transfiguration. And so he offers to make tents for them. He did not know what to say, and a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud and said, "This is my beloved son. Listen to him." And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them but Jesus. And that's where we'll end with that. But in that, we hear Jesus looking to be of this bright light, this bright, intense image. And we can picture that. I feel like we have different ideas of what that may look like. What does it sound like when we're discussing this story in Mark? What do you think? What comes to your mind with this description?
So what comes to my mind immediately, and it's used throughout the Bible, just of a certain thing that's more than anyone could imagine, a white that's whiter than any man could bleach. That comes to mind, and just meaning that the puny human mind couldn't fathom the purity and beauty.
Yeah. You think you'd need sunglasses?
I would say.
Yeah. It seems to be very bright.
My mind goes toward the purpose of seeing Moses and Elijah there.
Okay. What do you think that is?
Well, in seeing them, and because that was the old law, the Hebrew law, and the saying that, okay, Christ is here, he's giving his covenant now, and the purpose in that disappearance is they're not there, but it's the old covenant is proving Christ's covenant.
Yeah, I mean, the old covenant lays that pathway for us. If you read the Old Testament, we see.
I think it proves that it's not there.
We're still recognizing Elijah and Moses. However, they are gone when God says something directly from the heavens. I mean, I can't even imagine what this voice would sound like. I'm hoarse right now, but I imagine it just to be a roar, a power, just something that we can't even begin to kind of understand. I feel like Jesus himself were to have a tone that would be much different than that of God, the Father. And I just think coming out of a cloud, I imagine something so just powerful and strong that it would just like shake you to your core. And then he says something completely different in regards to Jesus. And what does he say?
This is my son.
Yeah. And as he's saying that, the other two are gone. And I think that, there's a sense in knowing that, like, Jesus is above all that have come before him. This is different.
The new law.
This is the new law, the New Testament.
They needed to see Elijah and Moses.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I do see that. And I just find that interesting because I do think in the terms of the disciples, do you feel like it would as much as we would want to like fully recognize Jesus for who he was in the flesh, like, could you imagine being like in the disciples' shoes? You have Jesus and he's saying all of these things. And at this time, we obviously haven't seen his death or his resurrection yet. But he's saying that all of these things are to come. And then to just show them this, I just think is like stamp, sealed, delivered, trying to be like, hey, like, this is me. This is what I'm saying. And that validation from God. I mean, nowhere else are we seeing this direct validation from God saying that. It's so crazy. It's so, like, I couldn't imagine the brightness, the whiteness, the, like, beauty, but equally, like, just immense thoughts. What do you think your reaction would have been if you were in the shoes of the disciples here and you trekked up this mountain for prayer or a meal or just hanging out, like whatever that their initial thoughts were, like, hey, we're going to climb this mountain. Like, what would you do if you got up there and this man that you have been following and trusting in and believing in, like, did this in front of you?
I'd say my breath would be taken away.
Yeah. Oh, I think I would probably pass out. I would be so, like, baffled by the entire thing. I was just in awe. I mean, like, Peter's, like, offering to, like, set them up tents and having them stay there, and just is so, they were terrified. Like, it was something so supernatural that even this person that they knew, they're still like, whoa. This is crazy. And I think ultimately taking away from this story is to know that, like, Jesus is different from those who have come before him, who will come after him, and those, like, he is the Son of God. And that is something beautiful to really just sit and hone in on. Do you have any more thoughts or just any questions or comments, concerns? I hope you've enjoyed this rendition of our storying, and I hope to do many more. And that will be it. That is our concluding story for now. So thank you all for listening, and have a beautiful evening.